while everybody was being an idiot, was being a fucking dummy, here's what I was saying far back in March of 2020. That's almost 2 years. I've been warning people about this Fauci guy. Fauci. He gave me Freemasonic vibes. He gave me scumbag, dirty little scumbag kind of thing. Like, little sneaky kind of sneaky bastard vibes. I never liked Fauci from day one. From day one, I never liked this guy. I made a post on him on March 28th. Not this year, last year. March 28th of 2020. And this is what I said on that post. I said, Dr. Anthony Fauci, I'm now calling Dr. Doom or Dr. Death. This is me talking very early on, before anybody knew who this guy was. I'm calling Dr. Doom or Dr. Death is now an overnight sensation. He's on a media tour just like some celebrity. They pushed him to the forefront as some expert, which he's supposed to be, right? But we'll get into that in a little bit later. He's some sort of an expert telling us half of New Yorkers will be infected by the coronavirus. And he's now a star. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? The guy now has a donut with his picture named after him. So I was warning people about this Fauci guy. I even made another post, if I go back before March 28th, telling you more about who this guy Anthony Fauci was, okay? Some have even speculated that he's actually the son of Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, if you remember, well, you might not be as old as me, but if you remember, in the 1980s was some sort of a saint. They canonized this woman into a saint, and it turns out that Mother Teresa was actually a big time human trafficker, specifically trafficking of children, right? So these are the people we are dealing with. And Anthony Fauci has been in the government, has been running the NIH, the National Institute of Health, which is the the immunology part of the government, is the agency that actually runs immune diseases for the government. So this guy's been dirty as far back as the 1970s and 80s, before he assumed this position in the government. So think about it. This is a man who has worked under what? Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, and then later on Trump. That's what, 7 presidents. So he's been there at the NIH under 7 different presidents. And you mean to tell me this guy is clean? This guy's not fucking corrupt? This guy's not fucking dirty? Come on, get out of here. But let's get into the video. We're going to get into a couple of things here, showing you who this guy really is and what he's about, and how it's even plausible that he himself may have started the whole fucking coronavirus thing. It may have been him. It most likely, based on the evidence that we have now, that's what Dr. Rand Paul is saying. Dr. Rand Paul is alleging that this guy actually funded and spearheaded the fucking research that gave us what is now known today as this corona fucking virus. Okay, so let's get into this video. I'm gonna start with this clip here with Dr. Paul holding this motherfucker's feet to the fire. Let's go, let's get it.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress.
Microphone.
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans,
right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, you get one person.
Let's read from the NIH definition of gain of function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's let Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2, that's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't
wait
know
a minute.
If it did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator, because if you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports, that were published in the literature, it is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those viruses caused it.
It
no
is
one is alleging that
molecularly.
those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it.
That
you
is
can't
not.
get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth.
Senator
You are the
Paul's
one.
time is expired, but I will allow the witness to.
Let me just finish. I want everyone to understand that if you look at those viruses, and that's judged by qualified virologists and evolutionary biologists, those viruses are molecularly impossible
No one's
to
saying
result
they are. No
in
one's saying those viruses
SARS-CoV-2.
caused the pandemic.
Senator Paul,
We're saying they are gain-of-function viruses because they were
they're not.
animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And you
won't admit the truth.
And you
Senator
implying
Paul, your time has expired, and I will allow witnesses who come before this committee to respond.
and you are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individual. I totally resent
could
that.
have
And
been.
if anybody
could
is
have been.
lying here, Senator, it is you.
Senator Smith.
This article, Representative Gallagher demands Fauci resign, saying he lied to the American people about Wuhan lab. What else is new? All right, let's get into the article. Doctor is out, calls for lying Fauci's ouster intensify as critics point to smoking gun documents. It's always a fucking smoking gun, isn't it? And we'll get to that finger pointing thing in a little bit later. Representative Gallagher demands Fauci resign, saying he lied to the American people about Wuhan lab. What else is fucking new? Representative Mike Gallagher is calling on Dr. Fauci to resign, arguing newly released documents show the nation's top infectious disease expert, lied about U.S. support for gain-of-function research, which we'll get into that also. On May 12, I argued that Dr. Fauci had not been forthcoming about the U.S. government's support, or I would say myself, involvement, U.S. government support for gain of function. We're going to get into that term later because it's very key to understanding what the fuck this is all about and what's really going on. And this guy, Fauci, has been caught red-handed by Rand Paul and obviously this Representative Gallagher. He's been caught. The documents they're referring to suggest that he literally funded this thing, right? So the government support for gain of function research at the WIV, which is probably the Wuhan laboratory they're referring to. These documents are a smoking gun that indicate he not only failed to be forthcoming, straight out lied, but that he also lied to the American people about his organization's support for this risky research. You following this? Risky research being funded by a member of our fucking government, okay? The Wisconsin Republican said in a statement Wednesday. This is as of yesterday, so this is very current. All right, let's keep going. Thanks to grant reports written by Peter Daszak, we now know that U.S. taxpayer dollars supported research that made a virus at the WIV stronger than the original, naturally occurring virus. This meets the very threshold for gain of function. Is that term again? We're going to get into it later. The gain of function research that Dr. Fauci outlined in a letter to me in July. The statement continued. He has repeatedly lied before Congress and the American people and should immediately resign. I'll go even further than that. This man, if he is in fact responsible for having not only conducted but supported and funded the lab research in Wuhan, which eventually turned into this so-called pandemic, he should be arrested. He should go to federal prison. That's what I'm saying. Forget fuck resigning. He should be charged to the fullest extent of the law and be sent to jail. Plain and simple. He has repeatedly lied to Congress and the American people and should immediately resign. But his resignation is not enough. That's correct. Congress must also conduct a thorough investigation into this research and the way in which these grants, right, our tax dollars, were issued to ensure no bureaucrat is able to hide behind lawyerly definitions and skirt regulations like this again. Yeah, right, but that's not gonna fucking happen. Let's continue with the article. Gallagher was referring to documents obtained by The Intercept, which is a news report agency, that show that the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the NIH, which Fauci heads, funded experiments at the Wuhan Institute of Virology that make coronaviruses more pathogenic than the original viruses. What the fuck does that mean? This is really saying that yes, there can be a virus. Yes, a virus can start. But what these fucking guys, what these evildoers did was they actually paid so that they can add to this virus, so they can develop it into other more dangerous viruses. So when you hear about your Delta variant, when you hear about your Doomsday variant, when you hear about your so-called now MU variant, these guys created this, they funded this and experimented this, adding animal cells and adding animal stuff, DNA, to the viruses so they could make it worse than it actually was in its original form. So whatever we're seeing now, these motherfuckers did that. They created these variants. That's what this is talking about, people. Okay? All right, let's continue. This is where this motherfucker starts to lie, right? While Fauci has acknowledged that National Institute of Health funds were granted, so he's admitted this, health funds were granted to the Wuhan lab, he has repeatedly denied that the money was used for gain of function research. So he's pretty much splitting hairs here. He's saying, yeah, well, we funded it, but we didn't fund that part of it. Yeah, really? Okay, so we're gonna get into this gain of function thing now. That categorically was not done, Fauci said in May. Now pay attention to the timeline, okay? This is him saying this in May. So Senator Rand Paul, who we have just seen sparring with this fucking liar and this evil bastard, Senator Rand Paul, who happens to be a doctor, right? That's another thing. That's the other irony about this whole thing, is that Rand Paul, not only a very well-known and respected member of Congress who has been a senator since 2010, Rand Paul happens to be a doctor, not just any doctor. This man's an MD, an eye doctor, a surgeon in that. So he's not just a regular politician who's coming to the table going at it with this other doctor. Rand Paul is actually a respected, very well respected doctor, a surgeon in his native of Kentucky, I believe, is his home state. So in other words, Paul knows what the fuck he's talking about. Let's continue. That categorically was not done, Fauci said in May. Senator Rand Paul, who has repeatedly clashed with Fauci throughout the pandemic, also raised alarm over the documents, right? Surprise, surprise, Fauci lied again, Paul said on Twitter Tuesday. And I was right about his agency funding the novel coronavirus research at Wuhan. The White House and the NIAID, which is the National Institute of Infectious Diseases, blah, 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 did not immediately respond to requests for a comment. Of course they didn't, because they're fucking guilty. Fauci, Rand Paul trade lying accusations about gain-of-function research and hearing on Delta virus, or on Delta variant, right? So let's go back here. Top government epidemiologist Dr. Anthony Fauci and Senator Rand Paul traded accusations of lying about gain-of-function research at a Tuesday Senate hearing, continuing the long-running feud between the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, also known as the NIAID, director, and the Kentucky senator, which is Dr. Rand Paul. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, all these fucking alphabets, all fucking evildoers hiding under these names. Director Rochelle Walensky was also asked about continued health measures like mask mandates on public transportation and vaccine mandates for school children. In his questioning of Fauci, Paul stepped close to the line of accusing Fauci of lying to Congress in previous testimony, in which he said that the NIAID had never funded gain-of-control research in China, citing a paper on research about bat coronaviruses. Paul said that U.S. money, again our tax dollars, had essentially gone to the hazardous and controversial research, an assertion Fauci strongly objected to. Bullshit. I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement, Fauci said. He added that the research Paul referenced was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function, okay? Potato, potato, tomato, tomato, right? Fauci added, "You do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly, and I want to say that officially." Paul's response was that the NIH's judgment defines away work that essentially was gain of function. Was it? Okay. You're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility, Paul added. Walensky and Fauci, who is President Biden's top medical advisor, appeared before the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, or the HELP, the HELP Committee. They each emphasized the importance of vaccines for stopping the Delta variant in their opening remarks. The message from CDC remains clear. Vaccination is the most powerful tool we have, Walensky said. Yeah, sure, Walensky. This is the bitch who actually runs Biden's health advisory in the White House. So basically, again, he's Biden's top health official at the White House. So he's also from the CDC. A bunch of crock. So I'm going now to this part where people are talking about in on Twitter, right? Excuse me. GOP Kentucky Senator Paul to Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11, 2021? Do you still claim that NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan? Fauci, meanwhile, also objected to any suggestion which Paul denied he was trying to imply, that he or the NIH may be in some way responsible for the COVID-19 virus, saying that the virus is created by the research in question would be molecularly impossible to be the origin of the disease. How is that impossible when you were meddling with fucking viruses in a lab far, far, far away in China, where you thought nobody would pay attention, nobody would know, nobody would notice, and you motherfuckers was gonna unleash this shit? Now, mind you, this Fauci motherfucker in 2017, at the beginning of the Trump administration, this motherfucker got on television and said that the Trump administration was gonna face with a very serious virus. That clip I have to find. I have to let you listen to this clip. How did this motherfucker know 2-3 years prior to this so-called fucking outbreak, this so-called virus, this so-called pandemic? How did he know 3 years in advance, being the head of the fucking NIH, that this wasn't gonna happen? How did he know that was coming? How?
I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why history, the history of the last 32 years that I've been the director of NIAID, will tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
How, Fauci? Do you have a crystal ball, motherfucker? Did you see the future and you had a dream, you had a revelation, and you knew that the Trump administration was going to be faced with a dangerous fucking disease that was going to be a worldwide pandemic? How did you know that? I'm waiting. We want to know the answer to that. Okay. You are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individuals. I totally resent that. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you, Fauci said. And Fauci's all nervous. His hand is shaking. This motherfucker's 80 years old, by the way, y'all. This guy was born in 1940. Right? Got this job at the NIH, at the National Institute of Health, leading the government's Institute of Infectious Diseases in 1984. So he's been at that post for over 40 years, and he got that job when he was about 40 years old, 44 years old to be exact. So this is a man who's been in that position for 40 years, over 40 years, 50 years even. So yes, we are implying that what you did was responsible for the deaths, the so-called deaths, because to this day, I've yet to see not one fucking person drop dead from this so-called fucking novel coronavirus, this COVID-19, this fucking pandemic that they're using now to fucking run the entire world and bring the world down to its knees. That's what we're implying, motherfucker. You a liar, and you should be charged to the fullest, and I mean the fullest extent of the fucking law. Let's keep going. The hearing is meant to take a look at the path forward out of the pandemic. Yeah, right. But worry over the Delta variant has led some in the U.S. to call for the return of strict health measures from the pandemic's height. And that talk has led opponents of such measures to push back hard against moves they say would be counterproductive. Los Angeles County on Friday ordered citizens to wear masks indoors regardless of whether they were vaccinated, becoming the first major U.S. jurisdiction to backpedal on relaxing virus rules. Of course, because they want you to shut your fucking life down. This was the whole point of this bullshit. Okay? And the very next day, former Surgeon General Jerome Adams, that's that idiot, that's that black guy who was working under Trump. He was actually the head surgeon, the general surgeon under Donald Trump. So this guy, Jerome Adams, who also pushed the mask when he was in that position, now being that he's no longer at that position, he's now saying the CDC should adjust its guidance that people with vaccines don't need masks, which was rolled out in May with much fanfare to bring back masking for all. So this is what this guy says. Instead of vax it or mask it, the emerging data suggests CDC should be advising to vax it and mask it in an area with increasing cases and positivity, right? Until we see numbers going back down again, Adams said in a tweet. So this guy's pretty much going against what he said when he was in that position. Wear mask, wear mask, wear mask. And now he's saying, well, if you've been vaxxed, you shouldn't have to mask. Fuck out of here. So then Senator Ted Cruz, who actually talks pretty much a good game when it comes to this corona shit, but no action. It's always talk. It's always talk with these guys. Talk, talk, talk. No, 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 no. Hell no. Senator Ted Cruz, our Republican Texas, replied to Adams. Yeah, sure. Multiple governors have also gone on the record in recent days as opposed to bringing back mask mandates, though more diplomatically than Cruz. For over a year and a half, South Carolinians have learned about the virus. They know what to do to protect themselves from it, and the vaccine is available to anyone who wants it. A spokesperson for South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, a Republican, told WBTA, whatever the fuck that is. So this is from the LA Public Health Twitter page. Wearing a mask indoors with others reduces the risk of both getting and transmitting the virus. We are requiring masking for everyone while indoors at public settings and businesses, regardless of vaccination status, so that we can stop the increased level of transmission we're seeing. Fucking bullshit. So why take the vaccine? Why take the motherfucking vaccine? We are using the tool of vaccination, Washington Governor Jay Inslee, a Democrat, said. According to mynorthwest.com, that's the ultimate answer to this pandemic. We don't want to be wearing masks for the next 32 years. That's probably what we're going to be doing. Vaccines stop this thing dead. Bullshit. Asked whether the federal government would continue its mask mandate for travel by Senator Jerry Moran, Arkansas, Republican from Kansas, Walensky refused to say whether the current expiration of that requirement will be extended. Most likely will be. But she did foreshadow potential complications from the Delta variant. The discussion about masking on aviation and ships is an interagency process, not simply with the CDC, Walensky said. I will say a lot has changed since May 13. As you heard from Dr. Fauci, Dr. Death, we now have a variant circulating in this country that is, at the time was less than 3% and is now 83% and is much more transmissible. So we are continuing those conversations. Yeah, so we know that the variant is circulating at a much greater speed, but yet this fucker, he actually went in the beginning and funded this research, right? Fauci paid Wuhan the money from our tax dollars, people, and pretty much weaponize this whole gain and function argument. That's what this is. The whole gain and function argument is pretty much this. They paid money, our tax dollars. I'm going to keep saying this. They gave our tax dollars to these mad scientists in a fucking shitty little lab in Wuhan, halfway around the world, in a fucking ghetto in China, where they thought nobody would be looking, and created these variants on top of variants, and pretty much weaponized this virus, and they unleashed it on the world. For what reason, I don't know, but I'm sure your intelligence and your higher selves will help you figure it out. So Dr. Fauci, Dr. Death, Dr. Doom, as I said from the first days of this thing, you are a motherfucking bitch. You are a fucking asshole, sir, and you should be locked up in jail, and they should throw away the fucking keys, bitch. Anyway, on vaccine mandates for entering grade school, Walensky said that's premature at this point to mandate vaccines for entering grade school. Both she and Fauci cited a lack of clinical trial. This is it. This is the problem. Clinical this, clinical that. Let's experiment on this. Let's experiment on that. Let's throw a few monkey, mice, kangaroo, chimpanzee DNA with human cells, and let's all mix it up, and let's put it on somebody. Let's not put it on another animal, but let's try it on a fucking human. Or better yet, those Chinese, they love eating bats. They love drinking bat soup, niggas. Let's put this super weaponized biochemical weapon on this bat, and let's feed it to these poor people in Wuhan city, right? Or the Chinese would say Wuhan province, and let somebody drink some bat soup infected with this fucking super virus, and let's see what happens then, and let's study it closely, boys. That's what they did. Motherfuckers, man. The Democrats in the committee, the Democrats, the Republicans, two motherfucking wings on one bird, same fucking difference. Meanwhile, the Democrats raise concerns. Are they really concerned about the increase in the spread of the Delta variant and vaccine resistance? The vaccine ain't gonna resist shit because the variant's gonna keep growing. It's gonna go from one variant to the next, to the next, to the next, which is what Dr. Paul is alleging, because they created this shit and it will never stop, because it's gonna be one variant after the other. And these guys, these fucking evildoers, they paid for it. This is what I want to reiterate in this article, people. This is what's going on. This is what happened. This is how this shit started. These niggas went into a lab and put this shit out on us. They marked us for death, y'all. Our government, or members of our evil fucking government. We are at a pivotal point in this pandemic. Damn it. We are at a pivotal point in this pandemic, Committee Chairwoman Patty Murray, D. Washington, Democrat from Washington State, said. We are now seeing a resurgence in COVID-19 vaccination rates at plateauing, and pandemic fatigue is setting in around the country. You think? Murray asked the panel what is the best way to stop the country from backsliding to the peak of the pandemic. Walensky said that is to get vaccinated. Hey, of course. Hey, bravo, Dr. Walensky. The solution to not go back to pandemic peak levels is to get vaccinated. How fucking convenient. Senator Tim Kaine who was this bitch motherfucker, this other evil motherfucker, Hillary Clinton's running mate in was it '08? No, it wasn't in '08, in 2016. In '08 it was someone else. In 2016, Tim Kaine was chosen by evildoer Hillary Clinton to be her running mate. So Tim Kaine, this is the same Tim Kaine from Virginia, meanwhile touted the fast development of vaccines for the coronavirus as a major accomplishment of the Trump administration, as many red states have lower vaccine rates than blue states. So Tim Kaine is basically saying if you all die off from the vaccines tomorrow, it's Trump's fault. He would never give credit to Trump because those people hate Donald Trump's guts. So for him to actually say this is pretty much telling you that if shit goes south tomorrow with this vaccine shit, niggas start dropping dead, which is what's gonna happen eventually. Then they would say, hey, he's on the record saying that it was a great accomplishment of the Trump administration. Sure, Bob. One of the great things about President Trump, this is Tim Kaine now. This is the guy who Trump beat with Hillary in 2016. This is him talking about Trump. One of the great things about President Trump, the Trump administration working with partners and funded by Congress was setting a world record in terms of developing a really super effective vaccines in record time, Kaine said. President Trump had COVID in October. He decided to get vaccinated in January. So this is from Tim Kaine. I don't know why the fuck Tim Kaine was saying this, but anyway, there you have it, folks. This was a little long. I'm still playing with this thing. I'm playing with the format. I'm playing with the setup. So one thing I want to end with is that if you have any news articles that you're very interested in, especially if it's current events, whatever the topic may be, let me know. Send me an email or just write me on here in the comments. Let me know what you would like for me to discuss, okay? So pretty much in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that based on what's going on now, we now know that Anthony Fauci, who has been heading the NIH and NIAID, which are both government institutions that run the infectious diseases for the entire country, this man actually funded the research in China, which eventually became the novel coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus, which eventually developed into the Delta and also the Delta variant, the Doomsday variant, and now the Mu variant. So all of this shit that's going on now, us losing our civil liberties, us having to wear masks, our children having to wear masks, restaurants, businesses having collapsed, and whole entire fucking civilization has been brought on its knees, is a direct result of this man, Anthony Fauci, funding this research that turned into this so-called pandemic. There you have it, folks. You heard it here first. Again, let me know whatever suggestions you guys may have on what to do next.